The great thing is about the alphabet is that it's an invention. The idea of saying, let's have a shape for a sound. And to get to that, it's quite a long process. Early writing systems go, let's have a picture for everything we want to say. So we have to have a picture for everything. And it becomes huge. It's a huge system because you have to have as many pictures as you have things in your life. And then people say, oh, hang on, this is a bit heavy. In fact, there are still systems that very much depend on that. So if you have a picture for a word, which is usually several sounds put together, you have to still have about 700 pictures for it to work. So eventually, Bright Sparks come up with the idea of, well, let's just have a symbol for every basic sound, the vowels and the consonants. And then you only need about, well, we get by with 26. This will be the story of A. It looked like this. And you can see it's a stylized picture of a cow's head. Sometimes it had a little dot there for the eye. Not always. And then eventually this got stylized, or a process of reductionism was applied. And people writing that as a letter, because this was Aleph, which it was also the name for cow. It was also the name for the letter. So this is now a letter, and eventually got stylized into this. And you can see it's still very much the same thing. It's just lost the eye. The horns have become a straight line. The top of it. Well, this is weird, isn't it? This is what's going on here. But you can see that this is kind of the horns. Oh, they're the horns. Maybe that's a bit confusing. And there's the head. That's what Phoenician Aleph looked like. And that's the letter that went to Greece. And by the time it got to Greece, it had rotated and looked either like this, or sometimes we see in Greece like this. And that we can recognize as the letter A. But you can see it's not really that much different to the drawing of the cow's head. If you turn that around, it's very much a cow's head. By the time that gets to goes from Greece to Rome, and gets written with a new tool, which is the edged brush. It starts to take on new shape. The edged brush applies contrast or thick and thin strokes to the letter. So it's the same as that, skeletally, but because I'm using this tool instead of a monoline tool, I'm getting this richness of variety in the letter shape. This tool wants to make curves. At the same time as this would be how big letters were made in Rome. And they only had this A, by the way. This is the only A they had. They didn't have the small a that we know. They just had that. They only had one alphabet. And if you were doing sort of day-to-day writing, you would often use a pointed stick in wax, and your A would just look like two straight lines. And so when they started to copy that shape, not this one, although you can see there's a bit of growth out the top already here with a serif forming, which isn't there, they would get this shape. So this is how between this and this and this, we start to see there's an evolution of the lowercase or the minuscule letter. And eventually this shape gets taken forward, and the curves that the edged pen makes are amplified, and the Carolingian A look very much like that, and they're still quite sloped there. And then by the time that gets to the Renaissance, it's about 600 years ago, it's pretty much upright. The humanist minuscule A looks like that. And that's really our A. That's how our A looks. It's not really changed much since then in the last 600 years, because printing was invented then. And the first printing types took that form, that shape, and it's just been replicated ever since. Now, you got people like Paul Renner in the 20th century who, when he invented Futura, said, well, actually, we don't need to make A like that anymore. We could have an A that looked like that. That was quite revolutionary. That was a break from the same skeletal form. And yet it wasn't accepted. That A does not exist in Futura these days. It is a much more conservative, orthodox, acceptable A. So there you go. A is a cow's head.